All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Learn Biz, the podcast. I am Sandy B. Law, joined by the lovely Lisa K. Crawford. Hey, Lisa.
Good morning, lovely Sandy B. How are you doing on this beautiful Tuesday morning?
Well, it is November, so I think I am excited about closing out the year and bringing in some new ideas. And I ended October with a bang, so I feel like November is going to give me some extra juice.
Hey, that's right. As we get ready to round out toward the end of 2022. So, this morning we have a number of articles that we want to discuss. Our focus is always the angle of the Black entrepreneur. So, we always look to talk about things that will help support the Black entrepreneur. So in this case, we're gonna bring up an article initially that we talked about previously. It has to do with hair straighteners. I think you guys remember that there was a recent article that came out that talks about how chemical hair straighteners are linked to cancer. You remember that? We just talked about it not too long ago, Sandy.
Yeah, that was pretty recent. That was like during the summer we started that conversation.
Absolutely, but now it's official. There's been studies floating around, I'm sure, for a long time, but now it's all official that chemical hair straighteners are linked to a higher risk of uterine cancer for women, and mainly for Black women, because it's been said that we use these chemical hair straighteners a lot more frequently than any other groups.
Wow.
So that's a problem. I'm imagining that there are going to be some lawsuits that are going to flow out of this type of thing. The uterus has a lot to do with child reproduction. So, I mean, this is serious.
Yeah, and this definitely brings up a lot of things about women and specifically Black women in the beauty industry. For many, many years, the products that have been presented for our use have often been in the form of transforming our natural hair. And, I. I left the creamy crack a long time ago, so I can't really say much about current, but I do remember many burns from many a hair relaxer. Good morning to you, Rigo. Good morning to you, Miss Globe Girl. Definitely appreciate both of you for tuning in this
Thank
morning.
you. Yes.
So, I left the creamy crack quite some time ago. I opted
Creamy
to go.
crack. I don't know where that term came from, but I do love that term.
I mean, that's what it is. It's an addiction. Unfortunately, our parents were brainwashed, many of us, into thinking that that was something that our hair needed. And unfortunately, when we go back in time, and my mom will say this all the time, she regrets doing that first perm when I was, I think, about 9. Why does a
Right.
9-year-old need a perm? Why? Because we're trying to fit in with Eurocentric standards. We're trying to straighten our hair to look like, the little girls in class who we couldn't possibly mimic their hair. But we definitely try, and we burn the heck out of our scalps. We damage our scalps. We lose our edges. We lose hair follicles that are necessary for our hair to grow. And unfortunately, we also create a drastic health risk to ourselves, as is demonstrated by this article and the one that we're going to talk about next.
We have to do a lot of things to look good, girl. Even if it means that we got to halfway kill ourselves, we's gonna look good, right? Well, there's an expense to all this. But this is actually really serious. Um, I just want to say a few things that the article talks about specifically, and we'll move on. Researchers said chemicals like parabens, phthalates, and fragrances in hair care products disrupt the endocrine system, which helps regulate hormones. That in turn raise the risk of uterine cancer, the most common cancer of the female reproductive system. So there we go. I'm waiting for the lawsuit fallout to happen because a lot of women have been using the creamiest of crack, hair cracks, for a
Look,
long, long time.
we tend to use a lot of different products, and I feel like we can go into the skin bleaching, we can go into the deodorants that have aluminum, We can go into things that we use on our skin, like lotions and creams, the things that we put on our lips, all of the products that we use on our nails, like, the gels and the things that we put, like chemicals on our nails. It goes really deep. And the more that you're entrenched in that, unfortunately, you create some heavy, heavy risks. Good morning to you, Doug. Thank you so much for tuning
Good
in.
morning, Doug.
So
yeah, we die to look good. That's what I'm just. That's the only way I can say it. And we better check that and make sure that we're not dying just to look good. Wow.
Look, not I, child. I use aluminum-free deodorant. I mean, I haven't had no scent issues, so we good. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull up the article that kind of is the follow-up to what Lisa just mentioned, because while we're having these issues with these chemicals, there are going to be lawsuits that follow suit. And so a woman claims L'Oreal's hair straighteners caused her cancer. And this is a lawsuit that was recently filed, and you already know whose name is attached to this. I'm sure you're going to guess, Miss Lisa K. Crawford. You already know whose name is associated to this.
Could it be the famous Black civil rights attorney named Ben Crump?
Lord of mercy. You already know Ben is all over this. So a Black woman is suing cosmetics company L'Oreal and 4 other hair relaxer manufacturers over claims that their products spurred her uterine cancer. On Friday, October 21st, the civil rights attorney Ben Crump and others filed a lawsuit in Illinois on behalf of Jenny Mitchell, 32, a very young lady, wow, alleging that her uterine cancer was directly and proximately caused by her regular and prolonged exposure to phthalates and other endocrine disrupting chemicals found in defendants' hair care products. Now, when you guys pull up these hair care products, that list is long. You can't even pronounce some of the things that are in these products. And that's the thing that really kills me. Now her lawsuit follows a recent study that linked frequent chemical hair straightener to uterine cancer, especially for Black women who tend to use those types of products more than their white counterparts, according to researchers. So at a news conference on Monday, Mitchell recalled getting hair relaxers starting at around 8 years old. Hey, I got mine around 9. And many as most young African-American girls, chemical relaxers, straighteners, all of those were introduced to us at a young age. And society has made it a norm to look a certain way in order to feel a certain way. And I'm the first voice of many voices to come that will stand up against these companies and say no more. Now, the saddest part about this, when you think about our history and our relationship with hair, we come from the age of trying to, press our hair straight, burning our edges, to get that hair to be liquidy straight. It has to be pressed like silk.
Did you say liquidy straight?
It's almost like liquid. When you think about it, when you get that fresh relaxer, what does your hair feel like? It's so smooth. That sucker's like butter. But that scalp is burning. That scalp's on fire. Got scabs and all kinds of stuff.
For at least a week. Like you said, you got scabs in the head.
Girl.
But you be looking good.
Mess around and spray some hairspray and see if you're not burning for a few days with them alcohols in the scalp. So, I think it's unfortunate. And I think it says something to our culture, how much we have been damaged in history, because we can't even maintain the most simplistic aspect, which is our hair.
Right.
Our core identity, our hair. Think about the way that, years ago, generations ago, the way hair was done.
Right.
And when relaxers were introduced, what that did to our culture. It's a drastic change. And what I love about current day is you are seeing more of a balance, but that balance is crazy because now you have the lace fronts. Now you got, you still got your wigs. You got your other weaves, you got your crochet, you still got the braids. So you got a whole bunch of things. And unfortunately, at its core, what do you see? Damage to women's hair. People are losing their edges, their hair is thinning, all kinds of things are happening, all at the cost of what? Trying to get a look that is not ours. Let's see what Doug has to say. Doug says, this is exactly why I support women going natural, aluminum-free soaps and deodorants for me. Now, here's the problem, Doug. Even the natural community has now adapted unnatural aspects. Whoa. You can now get locks instantly. You can get the faux locks just like you can get the braids. So we're still doing things like pulling on our hair, damaging our edges, causing damage to our follicles in our scalp. I mean, it's almost like we went natural, but we said, well, I can't just be natural and have my hair. I got to be natural and have Jill Scott's hair. I got to be natural and have Andra Day's hair. I got to be natural and have what's her name? Diana Ross's daughter. Forgot her
Tracy
name.
Ellis.
Tracy Ellis Ross. I got to be natural and have somebody else's hair. So I still can't be natural.
Well, in that regard, like I'm saying, if your unnatural is getting some little tracts of hair to make your hair a certain length, and that's what your unnatural is all about, I'm with you, girl. And I'm with you. Even guys I hear are using extensions to do some of their bouffant little styles in the front and things like that. So I'm okay about hairstyles. What I'm not okay is about companies promoting products that have been known to cause cancer, and they have done research studies for years, have not made this information available to the public, and they're constantly putting the public at risk by putting these products out on shelves every day. That is the real crime right here.
Right.
And I am so happy that Black women have choices today, because a lot of us don't have to use the creamy crack. There are other products out there that are less harmful. And if you want to wear a straight look, Black woman, you can do that. If you want to be curly and tracked up, you can do that. But just we don't need to die for it. That's what I'm saying.
And I want to add our brothers to the conversation too, because men are not immune to the creamy crack and the chemicals that are used in hair to try to transform the texture of the hair. You can think back to the time when men used to wear relaxer type products to get a certain look. So even in present day, there are certain products that are made for men to allow them to get a certain wave pattern. So,
my dad used to rock a pompadour.
Exactly.
He was in a singing group, and he had one of those big kind of hairstyles, and he I think there were guys in rollers back in the day too.
Yep. Facts. And let's not forget that, like Doug mentioned, the aluminum free, soap and deodorants. Like, if we really look at the things that we are putting on our skin, putting into our mouths, even down to our toothpaste, like I've gotten to the point where I've started thinking so much about the things that I'm putting in. I have a natural toothpaste that I use. I have a natural deodorant that I use. I'm finally getting to the point where I'm using certain hair products that are, I would describe, better, less ingredients, obviously not all the greatest ingredients, but really trying to decrease the presence of certain types of things, especially the sulfates and things like that. So I think there are little things that we can do as Black men and women to decrease our chances of being susceptible to some of these issues by really taking a conscious look at what are we putting in our systems, even down to our food, reading labels.
Yep. You remember Dax? Dax was a product that men used. That Dax was that was the Jack Dax. Well, Dax, men didn't used to use perms or things like that. If they just put that Dax on there, which is like, you guys know, like wax.
They're killing us. They killing us.
And them waves would just pop up in there. Oh man. Yeah.
And I like what Doug says. He says perms burn. That should have been a huge indicator that is causing harm. It's like when something has alcohol in it.
I take exception to that, Doug. We's got to look good, Doug.
Doug, don't listen to Lisa. We can look good without burning ourselves and killing ourselves. We gotta find some different strategies.
You were absolutely right. We got to move on. It's time to move on. You're right.
Lisa say it burns so good.
It burns so good. Don't I look good?
So, I mean, in general, what we know right now is that, there is a bit of a movement here where a few people have filed suit. Ben Crump posted about it on his Twitter. And I guess that's going to lead us to talking about this Twitter story that Lisa's going to roll us into.
I'm waiting for the class action lawsuit.
Well, this lady here is seeking in excess of $75,000. So we'll see what these other suits pop up to be. Right.
And that's not that much, but you know what I'm saying? Like, go for it. Get what's due, because they've been knowing this and they've been making millions off of us.
Well, she can buy some follicle implants,
You know what I mean? So, all right. So I'm going to talk about our next story here, which has to do with Twitter and Elon and LeBron. Elon and LeBron? Yes. So LeBron James, LeBron James, he decided to call out Twitter for their it's almost overnight surge in racial slurs on Twitter. It's just been ridiculous. I mean, Elon's been at the helm for like what 24 to 48 hours, and the races have come out, right? So LeBron James called on Elon Musk to handle the increase in racial slurs on Twitter after he purchased the social media site, and Musk has responded. So this was on October 29th when James took to the app to air his grievances about the influx of the N-word usage since Musk took over.
Mhm.
And this is a quote from LeBron. He says, "I don't know Elon Musk. And to be honest, I could care less who owns Twitter. But I will say that if this is true, the four-time NBA champion express, I hope he and his people take this very seriously because it is scary AF. So many damn unfit people saying hate speech is free speech." And so that's what LeBron had to say. And I appreciate the brother for standing up and speaking out. And then this is Musk responds through his one of his representatives. They say the tweet, over the last 48 hours, we've seen a small number of accounts post a ton of tweets that include slurs and other derogatory terms. To give you a sense of scale, more than 50,000 tweets repeatedly using a particular slur came from just about 300 accounts. And supposedly Twitter is going to take some action. They say nearly all of the accounts are inauthentic and that they're going to take action to ban the users involved in that trolling campaign. What say you, Sandy?
You might not like my response, but
Oh
before I
boy.
get to my response, Doug was laughing at the perm burning, and Ms. Globe Girl said the lack of transparency from these companies is criminal. Some of us assume if the product is widely available, it must not be harmful, and that's a very true statement. To
That's
go back to what we
true.
were just talking about, Doug says, "I can't wait until the foot-long lashes fad passes away." Let me tell you something, Doug. I was okay with folks, a little pump up to the lash, a little lash strip, give you a little extra. But right now, it's gotten to the point where I'll go to certain places and I can't even look at the person I'm talking to. I just can't,
Right.
because the lashes are so big. I can't take you seriously to even talk to you. Miss Globe Girl agrees. She's sick of that foolishness.
I am too. They
And
look like spiders. I get I start itching.
Doug says hate speech should be free speech. Now, here's my position on all of this nonsense on these internet spaces. The first thing I think to myself is, LeBron, I understand you taking a position, but this ain't it.
What?
To me, here's why it ain't it. Why are you on Twitter? Why don't we have our own space where we can stop dealing with the nonsense that we keep seeing in these spaces? You want to stop people from accepting these behaviors? Stop patronizing their spaces. Each one of these athletes and entertainers and artists and people that are in the Twitter space that have millions of followers, you created those spaces. You made those spaces what they are. And the more that you continue to patronize them and think somehow they're going to have some consciousness of mind or being to care about hate speech, they don't care. And I'm going to tell you why they don't care. They don't care because it's affecting you. Now, when it affects them, guaranteed it pulls the plug immediately. But they don't care about you, bruh. They don't care about me. So if you want to avoid dealing with this hate speech and all of a sudden, like, I don't even entertain the conversations that I see, because a lot of the people that are posting nonsense aren't even identifiable. They're anonymous. And the ones that you can identify, it's like, okay, I can identify you. Good. I'm glad you're saying what you're saying, because now I know who you are and I'm able to identify who you are, and there's no questions. So when I want to choose to boycott something, I'm not going to worry about going back and forth about Elon Musk. I'm going to boycott you, individual. I'm going to boycott you, Elon Musk. I'm going to boycott you, the other person that posted this thing. I'm going to boycott the company that allowed it to be posted.
And I won't be writing on your SpaceX to space either.
Child, I can't.
And that may not be by choice, but I still won't go.
I can't. I can't, and I can't, and I can't. Rigo talk about priestess. Doug has agreed with you and said exactly. I just I'm so tired right now of listening to people argue. Last night I was in a room on Clubhouse, and they were talking about Kyrie Irving from what's the guy that took the knee? From Colin. They were talking about
Colin
from Colin.
Kaepernick?
Yeah, they were talking about from Colin to Kyrie. And then there was a whole debate about Kanye West and his recent stuff and all this other nonsense. And the whole time I was listening to this conversation, I was like, these are all distractions. There are real issues going on, but we're sitting here arguing about people who are saying either hateful things or offensive things or whatever they want to say. And we're wasting our energy arguing with them like we're going to change their position somehow. And we're wasting time trying to defend people who don't need defending because they're making their money off of the nonsense that we're arguing about.
Absolutely. And let me tell you, speaking of Kanye, if you guys want a true definition of how cancel culture works, just just look at how fast Kanye went down. I mean, we're talking 24 hours. It's like he's out of the game.
But that's self-inflicted,
like
though. That's self-inflicted. Right?
Yeah, but some people say, look, praise the man for standing on whatever his convictions are. If he believes in something strongly enough that he's willing to lose everything, some people actually respect that.
I'm not praising Kanye for jack. He's a distraction as far as I'm concerned. I think we need to move on to some other voices. He's not the messenger I'm looking for. And that's my personal opinion. People can keep supporting that shenanigan. But as far as I'm concerned, I got a lot of other things I can talk about, do, and deal with.
Yeah.
Kanye ain't one of them because he's just a hotmess.com.
It's just deep how when people want to organize and come and take you out, it can happen so quickly. And that's what happened against him based on his statements. So, yeah, I'm not
Doug just said something very important. Ye is still in the game. He's still making his money. There's a lot of little things that he's said in the social media space. I was even listening to an interview of him the other day talking about he was trying to go direct to consumer anyway. That's what he was going for. He wanted to get out of the contract. So I'm like, I don't fall for Ye's shenanigans. The cancellation process is historical.
Right?
Yeah, it is, considering all of the circumstances surrounding it. And I'm like, okay, so he says all this stuff and this is what you cancel him for? Oh, okay.
Wow. That's what I'm saying. Like I said, you come up against certain group. It looks like when you mess with certain groups, you're getting taken out. And
it's selective cancellation all day.
I don't like selective cancellation. I don't like that. That to me is a problem in and of itself, because what it says is certain groups are more valuable than other groups, and I'm not going for that. So, but you're talking about LeBron needs to just get off Twitter. If you supporting it and you making it more popular, because he's obviously a celebrity sports player, but he's done some other stuff. And they even highlighted right here in this article, he denounced the Dallas Cowboys fandom over their kneeling views. He's done some other things to kind of stand out, right?
I don't discount anything LeBron's done. I think he has some great examples in his life about the things that he's done to support communities and build communities, including his own. I just think that all this Elon nonsense, this Kanye nonsense, all these people that are messengers and doing nonsense, I'm over them. And I'm not going to give them 2 seconds of time. What y'all need to do is hit them in the pockets. If they're doing something wrong, hit them in the pocket. Stop giving them you. Because you are their moneymaker.
Right.
I support Ye. Flush out the real power. Show the hypocrisy. I agree with flushing out the hypocrisy. I'm just not going to entertain Ye, but I agree with flushing out the hypocrisy. And I think that goes in many different layers, because when I think about Ye's story and some of the things that he has done over the past, let's say, decade, I'm just like, there's hypocrisy in that. And I think that we have to acknowledge his hypocrisy as well as the hypocrisy that he's trying to fight against in the same tone. I think accountability is to be had in different realms. But I also think that, there are some comments that he's making that are hitting the source. The problem is he's not going to be taken seriously because he keeps flip-flopping onto different issues that don't have nothing to do with the other. So
Well,
I don't know.
we'll see, because right now there's a little campaign and folks are running around saying Ye is right. So
Miss Globe Girl says, I don't agree with Ye, but these companies went too far and he just
oh,
won't
God.
shut his mouth.
He will not shut
Look,
his mouth. Ye is going to keep talking. But let me tell you why Ye is probably going to always be right with me musically, because of this song Jesus Walks. Ye's going to always be right with me just because of that song right there. That was my jam.
Lisa, we can't
Okay?
connect. I can't even listen to his music no more. He
I
drives me.
love
He
it.
gets on my nerves. He reminds me of the little brother that I just want to take my foot and give a swift kick in the behind. That's what I feel like. That's what I feel like. I want to give him a swift kick in the behind so he can wake up from whatever nonsense and get back to the music. Get back to, because the only thing he's known for right now, as far as I'm concerned, is antics. And you're not being taken seriously. That's why they're able to do this cancellation at large scale, because even your own community can't fully rally behind you because you haven't rallied behind the community yourself. I can't.
There you go.
Let
there
me
you
stop.
go.
Let me stop.
Go
Ranting.
ahead. Go ahead on these. All
I
these
can't.
points are valid. I mean, they cannot be argued with on either side. It really can't.
Miss Globe Girl says he is so inarticulate. I just can't deal with him.
I
He just gets
don't.
on my
And I don't
nerves.
agree with that. I don't think he's inarticulate. I think he's
Nah.
very. He can articulate his point of view. That's why he's dealing with all this fallout, because he stated very well about his point of views. So I don't think it's that. I just think that, you know, he's taking risks that most people are not going to say things that's going to cause them to go from billionaire to millionaire in less than 30 minutes. Most people aren't going to play that kind of game with their money.
Child, I ain't crying over no billionaires or millionaires in my life. Ye is right. Follow the money. All of the owners are small hats and have a very interesting history. You know, I don't discount it. I don't discount that there's a lot of layering to this that goes beyond. First of all, Kanye is not even the tip of the issue. The unfortunate part is he's being used as some example, but he's helping that process, unfortunately. You know, his state of mind, I'm not even going to call mental illness, because obviously we know that he has mental issues, but I don't think mental issues are the reason for his foolishness. I think he is just a fool by nature, you know, the little brother that needs a swift kick in the behind. But still, that doesn't mean that we can discount all message. I can discount some of it, but not all of it.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't say everything that's in his head, obviously, but for some reason, I think that I just gonna watch this story and just keep on seeing what happens with Ye, because he's dealing with some things, right, wrong, and different. He's calling it out.
Well, bless your heart. Let me know how that goes. I'll be moving on with my day. let me move on to Byron Allen. Like him, hate him, appreciate him, don't know who he is. Byron Allen has done quite some interesting things in striking certain deals over time. One of these deals is that he struck a deal with CBS to bring HBCU sports to major broadcast and streaming platforms. And the Media Mogul's streaming app, HBCU Go Now, has nationwide clearance for their 2022-23 sports season. And this is an interesting story because, you know, it's hitting on the tail of all that's going on in HBCU sports. If you're even following a minute amount of HBCU sports right now, you'll know that recently Jackson State and Southern University out of Louisiana were on College Game Day, ESPN College Game Day this weekend. You'll know that FAMU was just on, if I'm not mistaken, Good Morning America. You'll know that some of the HBCU games right now are appearing on ESPN channels, which based on what I understand, is not something that has been traditionally done.
That's great.
HBCU sports has probably traditionally been excluded from the forefront in terms of the large base of an audience. And as we know, there's been a lot of stimulants in the HBCU sports industry with the introduction of, I would say, some of the celebrity or former athletes who are coming in and stirring things up. As well, there's a lot of work being done at different HBCUs to really, really get the word out, get teams to be competing on the national stage a little bit more so that these kids can get the same, if not more, exposure.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot to add a comment that Doug mentioned. You can follow that money to the Dutch trading companies that supplied the slave ships. Good Lord, Doug. That's gonna be
Wow.
we got to do a show on the conversation about them money trails.
Now that's some commerce. That's some commerce to be dealt with from the beginning of time. Thank you, Doug, for
Facts.
mentioning that.
So Byron Allen is continuing to deliver on his promise of amplifying Black excellence at the latest deal his company just landed. Now, if I'm correct, Lisa, he also did the deal with Black News Network, and I know that we
Yeah.
had some conflict with that.
He
Right?
changed that over to the new station called the Grio. It is up and running. He owns that. I understand that he has over $1 billion in investments in media and
Okay,
he's doing really, really well. And this is private. There's none of this is public. So Byron
gotcha.
Allen is stacked quiet. He's like the dark horse and just stacking.
So, according to a news release, Byron's Allen Media Group gained clearance for their streaming platform, HBCU Go, to broadcast on CBS affiliated duopoly stations. This means HBCU games will be able to be accessed in key television markets: New York, LA, Philly, Dallas, Atlanta, San Fran, Boston, Seattle, Tampa, Detroit, Miami, and Pittsburgh. So, it's kicking this off in time for the fall sports season of next year. HBCU Go has secured distribution with a group-owned television stations, including just a whole long list. And the HBCU Go programming is going to be available online, hbcugo.tv. For those of you like me who have Roku, if you have the Amazon Fire TV and Apple TV. So you can see how that can be a massive spread. Allen Media Group is thrilled that the CBS and O&O stations have joined this group of broadcast television station partners to increase the reach of HBCU Go's high quality sports programming. And we're so proud to amplify these amazing athletes and HBCUs at the same time helping to finance the education of these young adults. Now, sports fans across the country will have access to best in class games from America's HBCUs. That is so awesome.
Wow.
That is
is
so
great.
awesome.
I love that. So Byron Allen has been quietly working his magic in media acquisitions. And now we're starting to see the fruits of his labor, and there are going to be some good things that are going to happen for people of color. And you just pointed that out in sports.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I think there's so much room for us to, have huge impact. Let me see what Rigo says. Deion Sanders, coach for Jackson State, is also an advocate for HBCU schools to be on TV. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's right, Rigo.
Doug says this is great news. It truly is. It's funny. I didn't know anything about Jackson State or many of the other HBCUs, Southern University, Prairie View. There's just so many schools. But I didn't even realize how much we don't include HBCU sports in our regular conversations.
I know it's like they were missing and we accepted it because they just weren't there. Oh my God.
Right. So it's like when you think about the influx of experiences that have happened recently, it really helps us understand when we think about disparities, there are deep rooted disparities. And you can't possibly get students from HBCUs to have an even hand at being in the NFL, for example, or being in the NBA, for example, if they can't even get an even look. Exposure is everything. And so having a Byron Allen do this, having a Deion Sanders at a Jackson State, having a Hugh, I forgot what Coach Hugh at what is it called? Grambling. Having all of these coaches who have experience in the NFL infusing the HBCU sports, and also some of the coaches in the HBCU nation supporting the new movements, the technology, the infusion of social media. I think we're going to see a really interesting transformation in HBCU sports over the next year.
And in media television because of people like Byron Allen stepping into that space. There's just one little criticism I have of Byron Allen, and that is that he was very critical of President Barack Obama back in the day. And he made a comment that it would have been better that we had a white president during the time that Barack Obama was in office. And now things like putting comments like that out there in the public, I can't stand stuff like that. I think those conversations, say those in the locker room, or I just don't think everything needs to be out there like that. We have so many instances of tearing each other down that we need to really go out of our way to try to minimize that, I think.
I mean, here's a little pushback on that. There have been some things said about Obama's presidency that when we really look at it, what did the Black community gain from his presidency? That's a conversation that's going to go long. So I'm not going to comment on that, but I'm just going to say I want us to think about, what did we gain from his presidency? There may be some things, right? But there are also some deficits, because I think there was a mindset adapted during that time. And I remember being in law school at the time, and a student standing up at an event who was a non-Black student making a comment, well, you guys already have Obama and you have this person, you have that person. What else do you want? And
Oh
I'm
my
just looking at the
God.
person. I was like, so we got Obama and 2 or 3 people in position, and you think that that means we have equality in this country? Wow, how misguided are you? It is what it is.
We have reached the
Um,
promised land. Oh my.
we definitely have not, but it is what it is. And I want to add to the conversation about the HBCU sports. I love what Byron Allen's doing, but who else I want to really give shots out to? Michael
Who?
Strahan of Good Morning America, for
Mm-hmm.
spotlighting Black, HBCUs.
Yeah.
The folks from HBCU College Game Day. I'm sorry, I'm saying HBCU, child. ESPN College Game Day. The gentleman's name is Desmond. I forgot the last name, but really bringing to the forefront the conversations on a national
Yeah,
stage.
those brothers are doing
I mean,
that. They are. Shout out to Michael Strahan. Yeah.
those are invaluable connections and voices. And I won't even touch on, Stephen A. Smith. Love him, hate him, indifferent. Stephen A. Smith has definitely been a force in keeping the conversation going about HBCU sports because of his connections with Deion Sanders. And so connections matter. I think those are the things. Doug says, get used to see my alma mater, the real HU. HU?
The real HU. All right.
Miss Globe Girl says there's only
Must
one
be
real HU, must be
Hampton.
Hampton. It's always interesting to me. I never understood the Howard U and the Hampton U, conflict. It's like a rivalry of sorts. But I love to hear it because it gives me faith in knowing that we're going to learn much more about HBCU culture and be in that mix. Doug says, I will never forgive Obama for attacking Libya and not stabilizing the country afterwards and preventing the current slave trade started after killing Gaddafi, which also prevented uniting African countries. Oh, wow.
Oh boy, now that's, you guys are unlayering some onions that is gonna make me cry this morning. We can't go down these roads because we will be on a whole nother show.
Yeah, I think that the wonderful thing about these conversations is we can see the layering, and we can understand that there's a lot of things that have to be said. So it goes beyond just having a face, right, in the mix. We also have to understand the actions that are taken by that face make a difference. Doug says, yes, indeed, Hampton University.
Yeah, we're going to stick with the things that are really important this morning. That's right, Doug.
So I'm going to throw it back to you, Lisa.
Well, we may have to deal with some of those things by and by, but for now, we're going to move on. But, we have so many serious topics, as Sandy's just pointing out with this, because there's a lot of money in sports. Yes. And to see us come of age and get up to date in the media, that's a good thing for so many reasons. So we have a lot to deal with in this country. And there's one more thing that we better go ahead and talk about, and that is that the United States Supreme Court right now is considering affirmative action again. And, we talk about making strides and advancements. Well, this could be a case that could cause a setback for some people. So there's some conservative groups that really don't like affirmative action. And so yesterday, the Supreme Court heard 2 cases challenging race-based admission policies. They call them race conscious admission policies. And these are at the University of North Carolina and Harvard University. And it says here that the anti-affirmative action group Students for a Fair Admissions brought both of these cases. They are claiming that policies amount to illegal and unconstitutional racial discrimination when you're talking about race-based, and that they particularly are biased against white and Asian applicants who might lose out in a zero-sum admissions process if their Black and Latino peers were to get these preferences. So that is what is currently being challenged right now. As you guys know, the Supreme Court has upheld affirmative action policies going back to 1978 and most recently in 2016. So this is I feel a little tense and nervous about what this Supreme Court might do, unlike the Supreme Court in 1978 and 2016.
My opinion is that I just see an unraveling of all things that were created to provide some sense of equality, even if the equality didn't come. Because many times some of the things that were enacted into law were really not beneficial for the Black community. They were beneficial for people of color. They were beneficial for people in diverse groups. And so when I hear stories like this and the opposition to this, with people using having the audacity to use terms like, it's like the fairness process, as if there was fairness in the admissions process to begin with, it just strikes a nerve in me. And I don't really have much to say about it. Let me see what Doug says here. Doug says, I'm down with ending affirmative action. I'm with tough love. I know it will be hard, but the long-term results will force us to build our own infrastructure. You know what's funny, Doug? You're saying this while I'm thinking to myself, I wish that Black folk would just stop going to all of these other institutions and fully invest themselves in HBCUs. And then I want to see what they're going to do. That's what came to my mind when I heard Lisa reading this story. Because I feel like a lot of these programs came into play. And in a way, they were put into play to help. But unfortunately, I feel like they created certain, I don't even want to call it crutches, but I just want to say that they created certain issues that tore us away from community, that tore us away from understanding who we are and understanding that we don't need other communities to be who we are. We actually create community. We actually create trends. We actually create opportunities. And so I don't really feel one way or another, because I don't feel like whatever I don't feel like it's going to be accomplished either way. I don't think we're going to get fairness. First of all, I don't think we're going to get fairness from the courts either way, because the mindsets on the court are imbalanced. And there is no sense to me of fairness on the court itself. And I just want you to think about some of the judgments that have come down. It tells me where we are mindset wise. So to me, like Doug said, like Ms. Globegirl is saying, I think we just need to do our thing, focus on what we need to get done, and keep pushing forward. We got technology, we got voices, we have power, we definitely have spending power. So why don't we spend where we need to be spending?
We have historically Black colleges and universities, so we do have those things that are out there. However, people should be able to go to school where they want, and not feel fear of being discriminated against one way or the other. But we know historically, because of discrimination and because of people of color being left out and held back, the playing fields are severely unleveled. And so for now to take this modern view and say, oh, just scrap all the race-based considerations, it doesn't matter. I think it's a fallacy to let them get away with that.
I mean, I think it's great in theory, all of these things, but in all honesty, I went to a PWI. There's
what that is
predominantly white institution.
Oh, okay.
I went to a PWI. In thinking about it now, years later, I wish I had gone to an HBCU.
Mhm.
I think that there are certain elements at a PWI that are a little bit different in terms of our mindset and what we embrace. And to talk about the inequalities and treatment, I mean, your treatment ain't going to be better just because you get into the PWI. you
No,
you
it's
you're,
not
you're
gonna
still
be.
going to face what you face either
You
way.
are.
And even when they try to put up all these barriers, there's always been Black folks that get into these institutions.
That's
Like
not the
it's
point. That's not the point, that we still make it there and we still struggle and we still show up there and it takes us 10 times as long to get there. That's not even the point. The point is they're making it harder to be there.
I don't think they're making anything. I'm going to be honest with you. They can do whatever rulings they want to do. Black folks are just going to do what we do. And at this stage of the game, I think we have a lot more opportunity. We have voices, and folks like you and I are catapults. Folks like Doug, Miss Globe Girl, we have voices in our communities. We have things that we can do to help. Like it's not the same as where we came from. And so I don't feel as moved by judgments like this because to me,
Okay.
they're going to do what they want to do anyway.
Well,
We can protest we
that's
want.
true. That's true. Just a few more thoughts from the article. It says that even in liberal states, most voters do not support affirmative action. In 2020, about 57% of Californians rejected an amendment to the state's constitution that would have let government and public institutions, including public universities, adopt affirmative action policies. In that same election, Biden won more than 63% of the vote in the state. And so, one other thought, without affirmative action, schools could struggle to boost diversity, or they may have to resort to socioeconomic status and other proxy measures to do so, which some conservative justice seem open to allowing. That's the question, really. Adam said, not not do the universities lose, but how do they lose? Yeah,
So
because they're going to lose diversity. You're going to see that there's going to be less Black folks being admitted to colleges and universities. Hence, that's why we're here in the first place.
So Miss Globe Girl says, so should we wait another 50 years to say the playing field is even? And here's my thought on that. You know, we can sit here and, debate the issue, right? But what's going to happen is going to happen. And I'm going to be honest with you, I see a lot of the unraveling of all the things that have been put into place. And we're going to have to be prepared for that. That's where we ultimately have to be, number one. And number two, when I think about what needs to be done, we need to get more people in political office that are actually doing things. We need to get people into these seats on the Supreme Court that are actually concerned about equalizing. Unfortunately, we're losing those games because we get certain individuals in office who just playing games and they know what game they're playing.
Oh, yeah, they know.
And we're still not, you got to think about state to state. What's the playing field? How many people of diverse backgrounds are on the Senate, the House of Representatives? In the United States, how many people? House of Representatives, Senate. Locally, in your cities and counties, how many people are in position that are enacting changes? And then the second thing I want to say is when we think about these institutions and when you mentioned the fall in numbers of diversity, well, guess what? Shouldn't that mean that institutions should be held accountable for their lack of diversity?
They're trying to do something, but people are challenging the affirmative action protocols that they have in place where they can look around and say, hey, we want this amount of representation in different cross-cultural sections. And so we're going to reach from these groups as well when we do our selection. And so if that goes out the window, then you're going to have mostly, come on now, you're going to have mostly white folks sitting up there picking mostly white folks to get in colleges and universities. That's what it was before, and that's what it'll go back to.
Well, let's just get Kanye, LeBron, and Elon together and they can enact all the changes we need because apparently the entertainers are the only ones that get things done here. So let's just get all the entertainers and then we should be fine. I think
I don't know. I don't know, but it will be interesting to see what this Supreme Court does with affirmative action. I don't feel that it's going to hold up. I think a lot of people are against it. Although although Black folks are still getting discriminated when it comes to going to get bank loans, Black folks are still getting discriminated based on employment applications and being sized up based on their names being Shaniqua or Leon or whatever. So all these things are still happening, but people just want to act like we're so modernized and it's so far removed, but all this stuff is still here.
Oh, that's facts. And to me, I don't doubt that they're going to drop affirmative action. And I don't doubt that we're going to continue going into a mode where we're going almost in reverse. I just think that it's going to be our challenge of our time because our ancestors did what they had to do. They put us in position. So what are we doing?
You're right. You're right. We're going to have to do more because it looks like there's not going to be any other larger opportunities to really succeed. If we're not doing it for ourselves, I think what the message is not going to be happening in this country.
Facts. I'm in full agreement with that. So let's talk about something that really hits home when it comes to business. You know, more than a third of U.S. small businesses couldn't pay all their rent in October. And I want to know if this is business rent or if this is personal rent. But this is a very recent article. This came out on the 31st yesterday. It says rent delinquency rates among U.S. small businesses increased significantly this month. I'm wondering why this month. About 37% of small businesses, which between them employ almost half of all Americans working in the private sector, were unable to pay their rent in full in October. That's according to a survey from Boston-based Alignable, a network of 7 million small business members. It's up 7 percentage points from last month and is now at the highest pace this year, the survey showed. Now, the head of research at Alignable said small business owners are resilient, but incomes are basically being eaten away by inflationary pressures. And here where we have, it has a little chart here. It says U.S. states where rent delinquency were the highest: Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, California, Pennsylvania. I guess that's why they're moving down here.
Yeah.
This makes a lot of sense. So the survey of about 4,700 small business owners was conducted between October 15th and 27th. The findings partly reflect how inflation is affecting small businesses. More than half say their rent is at least 10% higher than it was 6 months ago. And in 7 say rents that increase, and in 7 say rents have increased at least 20%. About 49% of restaurants were unable to pay their rent this month, up from 36% in September, while 37% of real estate agents, real estate agents, they couldn't pay their rent, up from 27% last month, reflecting the fallout from a slowdown in home sales as higher mortgage rates chill the housing market. Ooh.
Oh yeah, that's very, and you know, we're just coming out of the end of a rent moratorium for a lot of folks, so we might be looking at the fallout that people really have been suffering. And had not the Biden administration stepped in and done some of the things it did to help people with rent and paycheck relief, we would be in a much worse position, I would think.
Yeah, I think so. And they're still mentioning COVID-19 supply chain. You know, you're talking about scarcity of parts. That's why we're dealing with these vehicle issues. People trying to buy these old vehicles because they don't have the parts for certain. It's just crazy. Alignable also found that 1/3 of firms are at risk of closing if revenue doesn't ramp up in the coming months. Now, it's so interesting that they're talking about this because I'll give you a personal perspective. My then partner at the time, during the COVID period of time, we were looking at the trends and we're like, we spend more time out of the office than in. So why are we spending thousands and thousands of dollars a year on rent? We're like, forget this. We're going to go fully virtual. And ever since then, that's been an opportunity for us to eliminate the physical office expense, but increase the ability to spend on other things like technology, software, you know, increasing some expenses that we can, you know, have like traveling to conferences and things like that. So I think for some small businesses, you have the opportunity to pivot from your traditional, what they call brick and mortar facility, to saying, you know what, I can go, you know, completely virtual. But if you're a restaurant, I think the restaurant world has to find different ways to pivot. And I'll tell you how I've seen some restaurant owners pivot. There are new facilities that are very similar to like a co-working space where it's like restaurant spaces. And it's basically a kitchen that you will rent for whatever periods of time that you're open. And you do fully pickups and delivery by the food delivery services. So that's
Mm-hmm.
one way where smaller restaurants, if they want to minimize that overhead,
That's
they can
smart.
shift to that kind of setup.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that I'm noticing is a lot of folks are doing food truck type setups or pop-up shop setups,
Yes.
or they're shifting more to catering and doing less of the in-house. And then the last thing I would say for restaurant owners specifically, offering other uses for your space. Many people don't think about, hey, I have a restaurant, I can offer my space for meetings, conferences, events for
Yes.
businesses, or
Yes.
I can host events for businesses and get people to come in and do freebies and presentations. So I think part of the issue that we're having is people not being able to pivot for whatever reason, and people not considering other options for their spaces. So, that's just my 2 cents.
No, I think that's exactly a great perspective over it all, Sandy. What you just said there, you know, thinking outside the box. I mean, when you have something like a pandemic that causes a shutdown because people are dying in the droves, thousands by the day, and
Right.
things have to just happen drastically, you got to find ways to pivot. And you're right, a lot of these restaurants, they were a great example of how to pivot in business. Restaurants showed us how to do it,
Right.
in many cases. So you're right about that. But I think we're starting, like we're seeing in this article, the fallout is still happening. And
Right.
we don't know what the bottom is going to shake out to be. But I do know that the economic numbers that have come in recently have been really good for our country.
Right.
And so, although we are still experiencing inflation, it's not as bad as other countries. There are about 5 or 6 other, countries that are doing much worse than us inflation wise. So the US, yes, we're suffering. We're feeling some of the pandemic fallout, supply side economics, and or supply chain economics, things like that. That we just gotta shore up. But I think we have great leadership in this country currently to help us address some of these issues. And I'll just say this piece: I hope everyone under the sound of my weak voice will get out there and vote, vote, vote.
Yeah, I definitely think that there's a push right now for people to seek change. But I also hope that this encourages business owners to increase their personal and professional development. We got to learn how to shift gears. We have to learn how to scale in different environments. And we have to understand what this economic environment is producing. So if it means curbside pickup, if it means increasing your delivery, if it means downsizing your space, if it means maybe you don't need a full dining room, maybe you need only a partial dining room, maybe you need to team up with an organization. There may be some different ways to hit that. All right, so
Yeah.
back to you, Lisa. I know you're going to close us out with some good business
All right.
information.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about some good business things out there. And this will be quick. Hold on for just a second. You guys bear with me. I wasn't cued as I should have been on this one, but we're almost there. Yeah. So this one has to do with some books for Black entrepreneurs by Black entrepreneurs. And this website is called billionsuccess.com. That's where you can find all of these books. So I won't belabor you. Well, good. It's a short little list here, but you can see some of the different names on there. And as I run down, if any of these books stand out as something you've read or you might want to read, please shout it out, Sandy. I see Years of Yes by Shonda Rhimes. I've been wanting to read that book. Oprah
Um,
Winfrey. Did you read that one? What I Know for Sure?
nope, I can't say I have. I've not really been into the Oprah world. I probably need to check out some of her stuff. I don't think I see anything, and this is really bad. I don't think I've seen anything.
Misty
I've seen
Copeland wrote
Harvey's
a
book,
book.
but I haven't read that.
Oh, Steve Harvey's book. Which one? Oh yeah, I definitely have read his book. Act like a success. Well, you know what? No, I've read one of his other books that had to do with relationships. So
Okay.
this one is kind of a newer one. Tiffany Haddish has a new book out, The Last Black Unicorn. And the beautiful thing is that these are all black entrepreneurs. So as I'm scrolling down the list, I mean, there's so much. Building Atlanta from Herman J. Russell. This man single-handedly, in some respects, is given credit for building up modern day Atlanta. And I definitely want to read his book, Building Atlanta.
I
um
see Les Brown. You gotta be hungry.
you gotta be hungry.
I
That's
can't
on
with Les
here.
Brown.
Yeah, so
Why is Maya Angelou's book on here? I Know Why the Cage Birds Sing. Isn't that like a poetry book?
yeah, so
Interesting.
but it's interesting that it's on there as a book for entrepreneurs, black entrepreneurs, by black entrepreneurs. I don't know exactly. Yeah, that's kind of interesting.
Maybe your
Earl G.
creative
Graves.
juices or something. I don't know, getting your mind outside of the business so you can
maybe
focus. I
maybe
don't know.
that's it, but you guys definitely check out these books. Sandy and I have been thinking about forming a book club and reviewing a book periodically. So what do you think, Sandy? You think we might be able to find a book from this list?
Yeah, I definitely think we can find a book from this list. The question is going to be which one. This is a long list, and it's a very diverse list because this is not like it's
Very
like
Gordy to be
it's like
loved.
how do I have Tiffany Haddish and Damon John on the list? It's like two completely different realms, I guess. Or you'll have like the Maya Angelou book or an Oprah Winfrey. Well, I can see Oprah and Maya, they'd be doing stuff, but um I don't know. It seems like a very diverse listing. I think we'd have to, take a shot at it because I'm definitely interested in increasing my reading this year. This is something that I really want to kickstart before I close out the year. I got a stack of new books that I'm going to be reading. They're not by Black entrepreneurs, but hey, books by entrepreneurs are always good, no matter who they're by.
Yeah, number one sounds really good to me. The Wealth Choice by Dennis Kimbrough. So there's some things that we can check out, guys, out here for the entrepreneurs that
Miss
want to. What's that?
Miss Globe Girl says The Last Black Unicorn, Tiffany Haddish. Has anyone read that? I can only imagine. I haven't read it. I've
I
heard stories about
haven't.
it. I don't know what Tiffany would be saying I could have sworn this book was supposed to be like a personal, like her story or her life or something like that. So I don't know if it's like a guide to, how you can get through things and make it. Then Doug says, Doug, I love it. Do they have audiobooks?
I
I'm
think
pretty
so.
certain, especially the Oprahs, the Steve Harveys, the Jamin Johns, um, uh, Maya Angelou. I'm pretty sure all those are on audiobook. So maybe if it's on audiobook, we can surely do a book club on that.
Yeah,
I can knock out some audio.
we can find one that's on audiobook so that we can all get on here and talk about it at some point in the near future. So Sandy and I will select a book that we want to read, and if you guys want to join us, we'll also try to pick one that's has an audio version.
Yeah, so we'll talk about it on Friday's episode. We'll see if we can select something by Friday, and maybe we can kickstart this weekend reading something.
Yeah, that would be absolutely great. So that's all I have for today, Sandy.
All right, well, guys, we've come to the end of another great one. I don't know how we ended up being on here an hour. We always think to ourselves we're going to be on here like 20, 30 minutes, but it always ends up like this because, we just get wrapped up. But thank you guys so much for your engagement and sharing your thoughts on these different topics. I think the one important thing about this channel is we want people to be able to think outside of whatever it is that is in your mind about business. Because business is impacted by everything around us. That's why we talk about these current events. That's why we talk about these business topics. Because we want you guys to be able to stretch, to scale. We want you guys to be competitive with all communities out there. Because it's not, sometimes we make things into white and black things and all that stuff, but it's not about that. It's about being able to compete in the landscape as a business owner, not just a black business owner, as a business owner. Are we able to compete? So thank you guys for tuning in. Please like this video, share the video, subscribe to our channel. You can also catch us on our Instagram. B is for Biz.
Yes.
Lisa, we're overdue for a live stream. I think we need to try to do a live stream this week. So
we definitely are overdue.
We can talk about, of course. So guys, check us out on social media for our next live stream, because we're going to definitely hit one up. Happy November. This is a great time for you to kickstart some new ideas, for you to wrap up your year and say, what did I do this year that was of substance? What do I need to change? And for you to prepare. You got 2 months to prepare for 2023. I already got my little planner, Lisa. I already got my little notebooks ready. I'm starting to figure out what I want to do each month in terms of events. So let's do this.
All right. I love it. Well, happy birthday to all the November entrepreneur babes out there.
Thank you so much to you, Doug. Thank you. And thank you, Miss Globe Girl. And thank you, Rigo. I know Rigo hops in, he hops out, but appreciate you guys. And thanks to those who are always watching the replays. I always appreciate you guys. Please drop a comment if you are.
Thank you guys. We appreciate you.
All right. Have a good Tuesday.